How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I'm your host, Rising Oblivion. Today we're going to be talking about what things are going to be looking like for ATLUS in the year 2021. So, Famitsu just recently did an interview with a lot of Japanese game developers and heads of the video game studios talking about what to look forward to in the year 2021, what to be looking forward to in the upcoming year. And if you guys didn't know, next year is going to be the 25th anniversary for Persona, so they do plan to have some different stuff going on here, but that's not all. We have things like Project Refantasy, Shin Megami Tensei 5, and of course SMT 3 coming out. Not only has it already came out in the eastern part of the world, but it's also coming out in the west. So we actually have a little bit of an interview from each of the different studios over at ATLUS. We have the creative department, the first creative department. Then we have some of the spin-off studios that were created later, like Studio Zero and the Persona team, the people, of course, working on, as you guessed it, Persona. So let's start first with the first creative department. So Shinjiro Takada did a little bit of an interview there for Famitsu, saying things like his aspirations for 2021. He says, although there have been many various difficulties during development, we will continue to pursue high quality by responding flexibly and indigenously. We hope that many customers as possible will enjoy our work. He says, we are enthusiastically developing Shin Megami Tensei 5 so that it will be even better. We apologize for the wait, but we look forward to it. And what to look forward to in 2021, he says, I'm very interested in the titles that will be announced for new consoles. One after another, however, I haven't been able to get my hands on hardware yet. I can't wait to play it. So that's more than likely going to be our little bit of an update so far when it comes to Shin Megami Tensei 5. They are working on it, pursuing it hard, and it seems that the first creative department is working hard on trying to come out with SMT 5, and they're looking out for the possible platforms that I guess it could come out for later, although it is tied and locked in on the Switch for, I believe, at least a year. It seems to be what a lot of Japanese developers unfortunately keep getting themselves stuck in these contracts where they're stuck on consoles for a year. It's sort of strange. SMT3 being an outlier where it's like, we kind of do whatever. Catherine's kind of like, we can kind of do whatever as well, so they're not really locked into anything. But let's move on over to Studio Zero. So Katsura Hashino, the third creative department at ATLUS, Studio Zero, he talks about how he had worked on Persona 3, 4, 5, Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, and Catherine. And he says his inspirations for 2021, which is basically what they're going to be shooting for, says within the world we have experienced a flurry of different changes since last year with the coronavirus. All we can do now is continue to work quietly. The project in development is now at its climax, so I would like to continue head on to provide the world with interesting gameplay. What he is talking about is their new fantasy game. Yes, they are developing more than just Persona, SMT games, and doing different various spin-offs. They are working on a game called Refantasy, which has been in development actually for quite a while, and it's sort of been slid under the radar by other things like Persona, SMT 5, which has been waiting a long time for as well. But this is not your typical ATLUS game where it's set in a modern world sort of setting. It's actually set in a fantasy setting. It's a fantasy RPG is what he says they're going for. And that's not going to be like their modern day dramas, so it's going to be a challenge for them. It makes sense as to why it has been taking so long. A lot of these games are huge, but not only this, there are so many different challenges with the world going on nowadays, and this is going to be a brand new setting for them to have to try and work for. So let me know, guys, do you think something like that would be pretty cool? I think having a fantasy RPG would actually be a pretty cool idea, seeing as how turn-based sort of combat typically actually originates from things like D&D and whatnot, which is a fantasy RPG type of setting. So not only are we going to be getting a fantasy RPG, but it's going to be from a Japanese developer. It might be similar, I guess you could say, to something like Dragon Quest, or I guess you could say like the older Final Fantasy games as well. But Final Fantasy 16 is also taking on that, bringing it back to the kind of roots thing with Final Fantasy, going back into that fantasy RPG type of stuff. So it's going to be pretty cool. We're going to be getting Final Fantasy 16 and this brand new Refantasy RPG from ATLUS. So pretty cool. I'm actually very excited for this right now. Studio Zero, keep up the good work. Hopefully Final Fantasy 16 doesn't overtake it. But with how things have been going with, core Final Fantasy new titles, who knows what'll happen. But the last thing we have here is the second creative department, which is going to be the Persona team, which sort of broke off during the trilogy of the Persona 3 era onward. So The guy here says he had worked on Persona 4 Arena, the dancing series, and the Persona 5 Royal as well. So his keywords is what he says for 2021 is carrying out one's original intentions. So the intentions of what they were going to do. So 2020 was a time that changed with a great amount of impact, and we are now in an unpredictable time. Great. I mean, we kind of already been feeling that, so that kind of sucks, but it's understandable. It says, what is important is that we'll emerge in the midst of the rapid change where anything can happen. In 2021, I would like to continue to push forward, unmoved, unperturbed, calmly, discerning what should be accomplished. So they are working hard trying to get that done. This says now in the latest reports what we have, we are quietly working on our projects thanks to your support. This year marks the 25th anniversary for Persona series. We've got some exciting plans in the works. Yes, come on, give me that Persona 3 Master on Steam, baby. Come on. He says, so please look forward to them. So this looks pretty interesting as to what we'll be getting. And he says, what to look for in 2021. It says Toyota's Woven City project. It's still a long ways off and is kind of experimental city project anyways, ends up failing in the middle of the dream, but I will hope it will progressively succeed. It will one day come where future cities are no longer science fiction. So that's the last thing he sort of has there, and that for the most part is what we have when it comes to the development team talking about the different sort of little teams they have over there at ATLUS. They're sort of breaking things up, which I guess makes sense in the livelihood of a company. You can't just have all of the games series be holding on the back of just one studio, so there ends up being multiple studios like Studio Zero and the Persona studio. So we have the three big major studios over at ATLUS trying to pump out different games. So we have the the Shin Megami Tensei team trying to pump out stuff, being the first creative department, which I'm not sure if each department sees more money, more funding, more time. It seems that they all sort of work proactively sort of together, with Persona also having some stuff to do with Studio Zero from time to time, which is actually kind of funny considering that Catherine sort of went through that sort of phase where it was intentionally going to be a Persona game that ended up not being, and then the Persona studio sort of had things, and then Studio Zero took over certain things. It's kind of funny how that goes, but it seems like the Persona team is working on making the Persona games. Studio Zero is working on their brand new IP, which I'm looking forward to that. The sort of, bringing it back to the original turn-based sort of fantasy RPG, which is going to be super fun to play. And then, of course, we have SMT V, the long-awaited games. We have two very long-awaited games that they say to look forward to in 2021. Don't be surprised if we end up seeing a lot of SMT V trailers start pumping out like crazy at the start of next year. I would not be surprised. It sort of makes sense that SMT 3 is kind of around the corner for the Western release. I'm sure we're going to start seeing trailers for that here pretty soon. At least like English trailers is what I mean by that. And then at some point start seeing even more trailers start pumping out for SMT 5. And then maybe we'll get some more news on ReFantasy. It seems like it's been having a lot of development time, so there's a good chance we can actually start to see some progression grow here. And they said that they are trying to keep the original intentions for their stuff. They're trying to pump out as much content as possible. So it really does seem that ATLUS sort of has their hands full here in terms of developing games. So I'm really excited about this, guys. Let me know what you're most excited for. What games are you looking forward to from ATLUS from 2021? I know SMT 3 Nocturne HD Remakes sort of technically out if you have a Japanese version or you download the Japanese demo. You might have already played it, but it's a little bit different when it actually comes to playing it in English. So what are you guys looking forward to the most? SMT 5, more Persona games, SMT 3, this new ReFantasy game? Let me know what you guys are kind of looking forward to. Like, comment, subscribe for more content. As always, I will see you in the next video. Thank you all so much for watching.